My name is Kyle. I turned 28 this year. I work as a display designer. Might be a job you don't hear about too often. From store window displays to coordinating event venues, I deal with quite a broad range of tasks. While many in this field work as freelancers, running their own businesses, I am currently employed by an event company. It's not that I lack the confidence to go freelance. It's just that I've found it hard to leave the company that I was introduced to by a senior during my student days, so here I am. Probably, I think I am more indecisive than most people. I struggle with making big decisions on my own. Recently, I've been getting more job requests from clients, specifically asking for me, but I just can't give up the stability. It frustrates me every day. One of my specialties is creating seasonal displays for store windows. This time, it was a project from a well-established department store. While many prefer to work right before closing, I prefer to work after the store is completely closed. I check again before the store opens the next day. This project is for a winter display. It's not for Christmas. It's a short-term project, so they often say, "We leave it to you." I love this "we leave it to you" thing. I enjoy looking at the client's face lightened up when they see the finished work. 90% of the job satisfaction I get comes from this moment. The remaining 10%, I guess, is for the money to live by. I text the person in charge to report the completion of the job and exit through the employee entrance. I love the air at the end of fall, the beginning of winter. I decided to take a little detour on my favorite road on the way home. It's just before 10 p.m. The crowd was slowly starting to mix with those who are a bit drunk. What I like is the cobblestone sidewalk. Lots of store windows on both sides. Each store has different approaches to displays. Some stores do it themselves, while others hire professionals like me. Even for displays of the same season, the taste varies depending on the store and the designer. I enjoyed walking and observing this diversity. Walking slowly and gazing at the window displays. Many places are dimly lit, but there were also stores illuminated with bright light-ups. After observing for a while, you start to recognize who might have designed certain displays. It's quite intriguing. I stopped in front of a window display, possibly the work of a senior colleague. It was a gorgeous display, a typical style of his. At that moment, I could hear the sound of high heels clacking. The sound was so decisive and confident that it took my attention. I always thought that the strength of one's will stood out in such ways. The moment those footsteps were about to pass me by, the shadow of a person faltered. I reflexively extended my arm. I managed to prevent her from falling. "Sorry, thank you," a female voice said within my arms. Her hair was loosely tied back, wearing under-rimmed glasses. Bright red lipstick symbolizing her strong posture. She looked like a competent woman. "My heel got caught," she said, tilting her head back to check her heels. Indeed, a slender heel had broken off. It's a common accident on these cobblestone streets. "I'm glad you weren't hurt," I said, offering her my shoulder. She was tall, maybe because of the high heels, but our eyes met and I was slightly surprised. I recall my ex-girlfriend was also tall. She was always self-conscious about it and wore flat shoes. "I still have a business dinner to attend. This is troubling." She seemed more annoyed than worried, looking at the broken heel. While her slim fingers were still holding onto my shoulder, I could feel my heart racing, but she seemed completely oblivious to it. Looking at the snapped heel, a thought crossed my mind. "What's your shoe size?" At my sudden question, she answered 6 inches, looking puzzled. "Perfect." I took out a pair of high heels from the bag I was holding. It was a pair of black high heels with a slim 3-inch heel. "You can have these if you'd like." She looked at me and then at the high heels alternately. And then she smiled softly. Her smile somehow blooms like a flower, and it's quite breathtaking. "Thank you, this really helps." She casually discards her broken heels and changes into the shoes I offered her. She clicks her heels on the spot, checking the comfort. "They fit perfectly. Thank you. I intended to use these high heels for a display this time, but in the end I didn't use them. Never thought they would come in handy in such a situation." "Are these your girlfriends?" "No, they are not. They are brand new," I hastily answered when she asked with upturned eyes. I explained that I am a display designer and these high heels are just props. "I see. I'll return the favor someday. Can I have your business card?" She tilts her head slightly and smiles, but she has an overwhelming presence. I can't refuse and hand over my business card. She carefully stores it away. "Thanks, Kyle." She leaves while waving her hand. I could only watch her retreating figure. Only the broken high heel remains in my hand. I deeply regretted not getting her business card when I got home. A month has passed since I met her. The broken high heels are quietly placed in my room. Gathering various things that might be used in a display could be an occupational hazard. As long as I have this, I can meet her again. I had such a superstitious feeling. I walked the cobblestone streets at the same time a few times but couldn't find her. Unconsciously, my feet would take me to the cobblestone streets. Walking the cobblestone streets on Sunday night, when I met her, had become a habit before I realized it. That's when it happened. My job that day was to coordinate the venue for an event. I meticulously discussed with the person in charge and prepared thoroughly. The event, themed Winter Encounter, was a matchmaking event. To relax the nerves, a soft cream color, a slightly muted pink, and a light brown were used. I heard the event was mainly for people in their 30s. I arranged everything carefully to maintain a calm atmosphere. However, I was shocked to see the flowers that was delivered to decorate the venue. Despite arranging specially out-of-season chocolate cosmos, what arrived were colorful gerberas. What is this? The colors of the equipment being brought in were colorful and completely different from what we discussed. "Hey, what are you daydreaming about? Get to work." The one who yelled at me while I was stunned was a senior boss at work. "Come on, was there not enough discussion? I did notify you that there were major changes, didn't I?" My boss deliberately speaks loudly, making it appear to the event organizer that I made a mistake. Lately, this boss seems to search for reasons to interfere with my work. He makes decisions about changes without informing me, the person in charge, and proceeds to handle them independently. Normally, I would notice such changes before the day of the event and be able to plan accordingly. This time, it took me off guard. I fell right into the boss's trap. I rushed to the event organizer to review the new specifications. With such significant color changes, achieving the venue coordination I had envisioned is going to be challenging. I heard there were major changes to the concept. I respectfully bow my head and ask for clarification. The event organizer looks mortified. Their anger is justified, but there's no time now. I promise to create the best possible outcome under the current circumstances. I look at the significantly altered venue and supplies and quickly put together the venue coordination. Now, it's all hands on deck. I give instructions to the part-timers who always help me out. Those who have worked with me several times understand what needs to be done without me having to spell everything out. Ironically, the full-time employees from my company are the ones causing disruptions. They are of no help at all and are merely in the way. My boss, engaging with them, is truly nothing but an obstruction. Thanks to the excellent work of my helpers, we managed to get everything ready in time for the start of the event. Seeing the brightly decorated venue, The event organizer nods in satisfaction. This time, it was our company's mistake, and we deeply apologize for any inconvenience caused. I bow my head again, and the organizer shakes theirs. Thank you for creating such a wonderful venue. It seems to be easing everyone's tension. The participants, who looked tense when they entered the venue, all began to relax. Even before the event starts, the venue is abuzz with conversation, everyone remarking on how beautiful, cute, and wonderful it is. It's the Kyle magic, isn't it? It's wonderful. I've heard rumors that my work is referred to this way in the industry. But having it said to my face is still a bit embarrassing. Thank you very much. I will continue to strive for improvement. I deeply bow my head and thank the organizer. Just when I thought I had overcome the difficulties, I am fired from the company. My boss reported to the president. He apparently made up stories about my negligence and how I inconvenienced our clients. I am called to the president's office and immediately scolded upon entering. The president has no interest in hearing my side of the story, and I'm bluntly told, you don't have to come in from tomorrow. My boss, standing beside the president, grins. Seeing his face, any attachment I had to working for the company instantly evaporates. It is between a stable income and a stable life. I've started to think maybe I've had enough of it all. Thank you for everything until now. I left the president's office. The part-timers who were there to pick up their pay were looking at me with concern. I told them I'd been fired and bowed my head, asking for their help when I eventually go independent. Everyone present handed me their contacts one after another. Everyone kept saying, "Contact us anytime." I felt like shedding a tear. The other employees were watching me from a distance. Everyone's afraid of that boss. I quickly packed up my personal belongings and left the company. On the Sunday night I was fired, I found myself walking on that cobblestone street again, unconsciously. Probably with heavier steps than usual. Then, the sound of those powerful, clicking heels approached me directly from behind. Just by the footsteps, I was certain it was her. I stopped right there. I finally found you. Sure enough, it was her who tapped my shoulder. Finally, I gave you my card. I was happy but also a bit sulky because she didn't contact me. Then, she smiled mischievously. That wouldn't be dramatic. Isn't it wonderful to meet again by chance? I quickly found myself going at her pace. She wanted to thank me for the shoes, and I let her take me to her favorite bar without resisting. We sat at the counter, and she introduced herself again. Her name was Karen. She gave me her business card, saying she worked at an advertising agency. I was surprised to see her title as sales manager. My first impression of her as a competent woman seemed right. Let's toast to our reunion. She, who loves champagne, drained her first glass in no time. I'm not much of a drinker, but I felt like drinking today. As I accompanied her, the pace progressively quickened. No matter how much she drank, her complexion didn't change, whereas I was hammered. I ended up telling Karen, whom I had only met twice, that I got fired today. As I recounted the day's events, the frustration swelled up. She was listening to my story intently. The latter half was mostly grumbling, I think, but she didn't make a single unpleasant face. I opened up, fueled by the liquor, about how I had actually wanted to be independent all along. I see, it must have been tough. I almost tear up as I hear those kind words. Your life might change in ways you can't imagine from now on. With her words as the last thing I remember, my memory blacks out. When I come to, I find myself on my bed in my apartment. It seems like she had to take the drunk me home. I had such a great time with her, but it's such a shame I can't remember the latter part of the evening. I gently trace my fingers over the high heels she left in my room. Then I notice something off. a feeling I didn't have before. Curious, I peek inside the broken heel and find a message from her. Aha, I think it must have her contact info, but my hopes are quickly crushed. The message from her read, "Don't let the drink drink you." She must have left it when she brought the drunk me inside the house. It was so like Karen, I couldn't help but laugh. But how should I contact her if I want to? I can't just barge into the office, and it seems my only option is to keep visiting that cobblestone street. Can I just run into her by chance if I go to that bar? Thinking this far, I realize something. I'm head over heels for her. But she's a manager in a major advertising agency, and currently, I'm just an unemployed guy. She seems exactly like the unreachable, illustrious flower. I need to decide what to do about a job soon. Otherwise, I feel like I won't be able to confess to her. I started by contacting my friends from university. A few days later, I was awakened early in the morning by the ringtone of my cell phone. The screen displayed my ex-boss's name. I didn't want to answer, so I ignored it, but the relentless calls from my ex-boss continued. Finally, I had no choice but to answer, and I could hear the panicked voice of my ex-boss. "Hey Kyle, come to the office immediately." Huh? What could he want with me after firing me? Why? I asked, but his explanation was not to the point. He just insisted I should come to the office. He was so persistent that I finally caved. "All right, I'm on my way." I didn't want to hear anything more from the boss, so I cut the call after replying. Is this going to be another hassle? A hint of uneasiness crosses my mind. Since I've said I'll go, I have to. I got up from the bed and rushed to the washroom. Returning to the company after a long while, I found it had a more distressed atmosphere than before. My ex-boss, who seemingly couldn't wait for my arrival, rushes over with urgency in his eyes. "Finally, you're here. There's something crucial we need to talk about." His sudden statement leaves me with an uneasy feeling. I'm led to the reception set, where the president is seated before me. "Can you consider retracting your dismissal?" The president's words were unbelievable. I was expecting some kind of complaint and feel blindsided. After yelling at and firing people without any consideration for explanations, what does he want now? I can't help but find it amusing. "What? Why now? You were the one who fired me." I unintentionally let out what I truly feel. The president frowns at my words. Regret is written all over his face. Something seems to have changed. "Actually, we're in a bit of a trouble." The president begins to explain. "It seems that the moment I was let go and left the company, clients began leaving one after another. The company is apparently facing a severe decrease in work, enough to threaten its existence. This must be the reason for the office's distressed atmosphere. Every client that broke the contract asks if they can contact you. They say it's not negotiable with anyone else." The president is finally holding his head in his hands. He must have absolutely not wanted to call me back after firing me. The president was a proud man. "Hold on. I haven't told any clients that I left the job. I had informed my college friends that I had been fired and was looking for part-time work, but how did the information about my dismissal get out?" I'm puzzled. It seems the manager of a major advertising agency is widely spreading the news that you've resigned and might go independent. The president accuses, "Wasn't it your connection? The manager of a major advertising agency is broadcasting my resignation and potential independence across the industry." This is so like Karen. She probably marketed me to the industry. This reached my former clients, leading them to break contracts with the company. Many contracts were already preferentially assigned to me, so it was inevitable that the company would end up in this situation sooner or later. "You'll come back, right?" I'm astounded as he insists as if it's a given. It's bizarre to think that I would say, "Yes, I'll come back." "No, I have no intention of returning to the company. I plan on going independent. Declaring this clearly in front of them, I felt somewhat refreshed. The persuasion continues for about an hour afterward, but my resolve doesn't waver an inch. It seems even the part-timers are resigning one after another. It seems I'm going independent, that's the reason apparently. Rather than working at this company, they want to work with me. The boss distinctly told me he was told so. The persuasion went on endlessly, but somehow, I shook it off and left the company. I thought I would never come back. I strangely felt liberated. I realize now that I was the one who had shackled myself. Taking the first step was such a simple thing. On the way to the station, my phone rang, signaling an incoming call. An unknown number was displayed on the screen. With trepidation, I answered, and it was Karen. "Did I manage to return the favor a bit?" she said in a voice filled with conviction, almost making me laugh. "You're well informed, just like a proficient general." It wasn't a coincidence that my phone rang the moment I left the company. I'm sure of that. "I have my little birds everywhere," Karen said, laughing. She would do such a thing. Probably, there are people in the company I was working for who are in contact with her. "I thought you wrote my number, but you only left a message. Isn't that too horrible?" Remembering the message, I try a bit of sarcasm. Then she said, "Look at your phone." Wondering what it was about, I looked at the back of my phone, and there was a hastily written cell number. "I did tell you, to you who were totally drunk." Karen said she wrote it with a permanent marker so it wouldn't erase. Since I didn't have a phone case, it was written directly on it. Will this erase? Is there a need to erase it? I make a wry smile at Karen's ever-bold words. I feel like I can't win against her. "By the way, about the job." Suddenly her voice turned businesslike and serious. Karen. She offered me a great opportunity. I was offered an exclusive contract with the major advertising agency Karen works for. For me, who hadn't decided anything yet, it was an unbelievably big job. "I would like to finalize the contract. Can you make the trip?" Karen said, smiling. Several years have passed since then. My name is known throughout the industry, and I have a never-ending stream of work. I couldn't handle the work by myself anymore, so I quickly started my own business and set up an office. Some of the part-timers I worked with before are now working as employees in my company. Now that I have someone to delegate the administrative tasks to, I can focus more on my design work. It's a different life from when I was employed. It's busy, but fulfilling. Karen and I have been work partners ever since. I think we have a good relationship in our private life too. When I started my company, I confessed my feelings to her and asked her to be my girlfriend. Karen easily agreed and shared a secret with me. Turns out, she knew about me all along. She really liked the displays I created. "When I saw you for the first time, I was shocked because you were totally my type." She recognized me immediately when we met on the cobblestone street. I wish she had told me then, but when I say that, she just clicks her tongue and waves a finger. That wouldn't have been dramatic, would it? So, it turns out I was being led by her all along. Today's job is a boutique's display window, themed for Valentine's. I watch over the finished display window and contact Karen to check it. She quickly agrees to come over and hands up the phone. The sound of heels clacking echoes on the cobblestone street. This display window really stands out at night, she says while looking over the display window I created. Then, she turned to me, as if realizing something. "Do you remember, in the center of the display window, there is a broken high heel. The concept is meeting a loved one," I say with a smile. Karen smiles mischievously in response. "You've become so cocky. It's like you never were the guy who would get drunk and sob uncontrollably. Teasingly, she looks again at the window. Her face shows a happy expression. Then I softly pull out my secret weapon and kneel at her feet. I know the rule is a 3-month salary for a ring, but for you, it's this, I say as I gently remove one of her high heels and slip on an unbelievably high and surprising Louboutin heel. She squints happily. As I'm humbly helping her change the other heel, she says, "Hey, don't I look like Cinderella right now?" Her childlike words almost make me laugh. Unaware of my amusement, Karen innocently admires her high heels. I see, so we're having a happy ending then. Looking up to her, I hear a tongue click from above. Her tongue clicking is her way of hiding her embarrassment. "You really have become cocky," she says as she hugs my head. "I think I'm the real Cinderella here. She gave me the first step into a new world. That broken heel from back then. I think it's a lifelong treasure for us."